As a young child, Harry Potter is left under the care of his aunt, Petunia Dursley. She comes off as mean and uncaring. She tells lies and hides the truth about Harry's past. So why was she this way? Did something make her turn cold? Or was she always like that? Today, we're going to dive into the life of Petunia Dursley. Petunia Dursley was born into the Evans family. She was the first of two daughters. She and her sister Lily grew up in Cokeworth, a town in the English Midlands. Petunia and Lily were once close sisters. That was up until Lily started showing a new strange ability. Lily could do magic. Petunia was envious of what her sister could do. This envy, over time, would turn into anger. Magic made Lily extraordinary, and Petunia wanted to be the same way. After Lily gets a letter from Hogwarts inviting her to attend school there to learn magic, Petunia writes to the headmaster, Albus Dumbledore. She would ask if she could join her sister there to learn. Dumbledore kindly wrote back that, unfortunately, she could not attend school there because she was a muggle, a non-magical person. She was very hurt and felt left out. After giving up on the hope that she might one day go to Hogwarts and learn magic, she was determined to live the most wonderful, ordinary life possible. Petunia eventually left Cokeworth to take up a typing course in London. She landed an office job where she would meet her future husband, Vernon Dursley. After going out on several ordinary dates, Petunia dreamed of the day that he would ask her to marry him. Vernon would propose to Petunia in his mother's sitting room. While this was a joyful moment, worry sunk in about what he would think of her sister Lily, who was in her final year at Hogwarts. One night, after a date, she tearfully told Vernon about her sister, fearing she might lose him. He was very shocked, but promised not to hold it against her. The day came when Petunia would finally introduce Lily to Vernon. Lily and her boyfriend James would meet Petunia and Vernon at a restaurant. The dinner did not go well. James poked fun at Vernon, and Vernon tried to patronize James. Vernon's feelings eventually turned into anger, and he and Petunia stormed out of the restaurant. Lily was in tears, and James promised to make things right with Vernon as soon as possible. However, this would never happen. Petunia would not allow Lily to be one of her bridesmaids at her wedding. She didn't want to feel overshadowed again by her extraordinary little sister. James tried to make it right with Vernon, but he refused to talk with him. Vernon would even make fun of James while he knew James could hear him. As Petunia settled into married life, she would become more and more like her husband, a dull, judgmental gossip and plain old ordinary. Petunia had little contact with Lily after everything. She and Vernon would not attend Lily and James's wedding, but there would be occasional contact like sending something at Christmas time. Petunia would give birth to her first and only son, Dudley, on June 23, 1980. She took pride in her ordinary family. About a month later, after Dudley was born, Lily would send a letter to Petunia about the birth of her and James's son. However, she would bitterly toss this letter into the trash. A little over a year later, Petunia had a huge surprise left outside her front door in the middle of the night. Her nephew, Harry, whom she had never met, was sleeping outside with a letter grasped in his little hands. This letter from Dumbledore explained that her sister Lily and her husband James had been killed. Lily sacrificed her life to protect her son, which enacted a blood protection for Harry as long as he could live with Petunia, his only blood relative alive, and call it his home. His life could still be in danger, and she was his only hope to stay safe. Because of the love she once had for her sister, she took Harry in and raised him. However, her jealousy over her sister seemed to transfer to her nephew. She could only guess that he would show signs of magic one day, just like her sister had. She would not let her son Dudley feel like she did as a child, shadowed and less than. This meant that life was not easy inside the Dursleys' house for Harry. They kept him in a cupboard under the stairs. He never got anything new, only clothes or things that were no longer in use. He often felt neglected and was punished for something he could not help. While he was often locked up in his cupboard when signs of magic appeared, occasionally, when only Petunia would see what happened, she wouldn't punish him. Like the time a sweater she was trying to put on Harry kept shrinking the more she struggled to put it on him. She would say it just must have shrunk in the wash. Petunia and Vernon had to come up with a backstory of how Harry ended up with them. They would say that his parents died in a car crash. With Petunia's feelings about magic and how Vernon despised anything out of the ordinary, there was no way they could tell him the truth. As the years passed, it became harder and harder to ignore the signs that Petunia's nephew was, in fact, a wizard. In 1991, shortly before Harry's 11th birthday, the invitation to attend Hogwarts appeared via owl mail. Petunia and Vernon were baffled at the letter's arrival and didn't know what to do. While Petunia suggested they write back, saying they don't want him to attend, Vernon intends to ignore it all. Vernon told Petunia, "I'm not having one in the house, Petunia. Didn't we swear when we took him in that we'd stamp out that dangerous nonsense?" So they ignored the letter. They developed a fear that they were being spied on since the letter knew that Harry was living in the cupboard under the stairs. Over the next few weeks, the letters kept arriving, more and more each time. Vernon eventually packs up the family to try to outrun the letters. Ironically, they end up in a hotel in Cokeworth because it seems like such an unmagical place to Vernon. This, of course, was where Petunia and Lily grew up and learned that magic was real. The day before Harry's birthday, they all stayed in a hut on the rock of an island. Just as the clock turned midnight and it was officially Harry's birthday, the door to the hut was hit off of its hinges by half-giant Hagrid. He came to give Harry his letter and take him to get his things for Hogwarts. Time had run out on the secret they were keeping from Harry and Dudley. Vernon tried to take charge and stop Hagrid from telling Harry anything, but Hagrid would not have it. He scolded him and Petunia for lying for so many years. The truth came out, and they could do nothing about it, no matter how much they yelled. Dudley even had a pig's tail by the end of the night. Hagrid and Harry left the Dursleys' boat the following day to get school supplies. The Dursleys would eventually find their way off the rock and back home. Harry would return to them for the next month until school began in September. During this time, Petunia and her husband, half terrified and half furious, ignored Harry. No more shouting, no more telling him what to do. It was like he didn't exist. Harry just kept to himself in his new room, given to him during the letter fiasco when the Dursleys thought someone from Hogwarts was spying on them. When September 1st rolled around, the Dursleys and Harry would travel to London. They would drop Harry at King's Cross Station to catch his train and bring Dudley to the hospital to remove the pigtail. Vernon thought it was a bit of a joke that Harry's ticket said platform 9 3/4, but Petunia didn't say anything about it. She knew that's where a witch or wizard could board the Hogwarts Express, because she had seen her younger sister Lily do the same. Dudley would also be taken to his new school shortly after this, and Petunia and Vernon would return to their perfectly normal lives. Harry never spent the holidays back at home with the Dursleys. Petunia was probably happy that Dudley was finally the only boy in the house. However, Harry would return home to live with the Dursleys for several summers while attending Hogwarts. Petunia and Vernon continued to mistreat Harry whenever he was home. On one of these summers, Petunia's sister-in-law Marge came to stay with them. Somehow, she was even worse to Harry than her brother Vernon was. Another summer, Petunia was frightened when the Weasley family tried to use the Floo network, a mode of magical transportation via fireplace. She was also brought to hysterics when Dudley's tongue swelled and grew wildly after sneaking a tongue toffee, a wizard joke candy, that was dropped by the Weasley twins. The following summer, Harry and Dudley would be attacked by Dementors, a magical being that could suck out one's soul. Harry would save Dudley's life, and when he was explaining the attack, Petunia would reveal a secret. She already knew what a Dementor was. Vernon wanted to kick Harry out of the house, but a howler from Dumbledore arrived and said, "Remember my last," to Petunia. She would allow him to stay because of this letter, but tried to explain it as if it might seem strange to the neighbors if Harry suddenly disappeared. In the summer of 1996, Petunia and Vernon were visited by Dumbledore. He explained that Harry had been given Sirius Black, his godfather's, belongings, including his home and house elf, after his death. Dumbledore would also explain his disappointment in the Dursleys for the poor treatment of Harry. They did not treat him as a son as he had hoped. He explained that Harry must return home once more before he turns 17 to keep the protection going until his birthday. After Dumbledore finished his statement, Petunia was speechless and flushed. Whether this was from anger or guilt is debatable. The last summer Harry would return to the Dursleys was in 1997. Petunia and her family were put under protection by a witch and a wizard in the Order of the Phoenix. They were taken to safety as Voldemort, her sister's killer, was on a warpath. Just before Petunia leaves her ordinary house and her ordinary life there, she would have a moment, just a teeny moment. She wanted to wish Harry luck. Petunia opened her mouth to speak, but pushed it down and turned to leave. Petunia knew she had not treated Harry well all these years. She let her jealousy over her sister influence her life and choices poorly. At that moment, she missed her sister and worried that her nephew Harry was about to have the same fate as Lily. She didn't think that anything she could say would matter at this point. Petunia and her family would stay safe, Harry would survive, and life would go on. Much later in life, Petunia would be a grandmother to 2 children of Dudley's. Family ties were a bit repaired over the years. Petunia would eventually pass away, but it was revealed that she had one more secret. After all these years, Petunia had kept the blanket Harry was left with on her doorstep all those years ago. She hid it away, but could not bear parting with it. Dudley would eventually find it and give it back to Harry. This has been the life of Petunia Dursley. Thank you for listening to her story. What are your thoughts on Petunia? How different do you think things would be if she were a witch like her sister? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoy this video or want to support the channel, please consider giving a like and drop a comment. You can also subscribe for more videos. We are almost at 500 subscribers, and that is awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. I'll be back again soon with another video, but until then, keep enjoying the magic.